Hello everyone, this is Leslie from Wall to Wall Vinyl coming to you with a live tutorial. Tonight we will be talking about pressing aprons. Aprons are kind of a fun item. We can use them for both the women in our lives and the men in our lives. I've done very well with these for Mother's Day, but oddly enough, even more so, I've done well with these for Father's Day with like a grill theme. And so I will be showing you one of both tonight. Please, if you are joining from the Facebook Wall to Wall Vinyl business page, please go to the Wall to Wall Vinyl Sublimation Designs and More group and join there, and also go to YouTube and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you are watching from YouTube, please go to Facebook, like and follow the business page Wall to Wall Vinyl and join the group Wall to Wall Vinyl Sublimation Designs and More. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok. Please take note, if you are watching this live, if you could please comment hashtag wall, the number 2 wall. That would be great. If you are watching replay or rewind, please hashtag rewind. That just helps me to know when people are seeing these videos, and I really appreciate it. Tonight, like I said, we'll be working on aprons. So I wanted to show you kind of how I set that up. With the designs that I am using tonight, which can be found at Wall to Wall Vinyl on Etsy as well as Shopify, I have broken the designs down into pieces. I find a lot of people don't like to do the overall designs. You can do them. I've done them before. They are a little bit more time consuming, so these tend to be a little bit easier. So these are the ones I'll be showing you tonight. So I wanted to show you how to set this up. I am going to be using my clamshell press tonight as well as the stabilizer board. So let's go ahead and move on over to the press. Try to make sure you have a good view of everything I am doing. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my stabilizer board off. I use the stabilizer board for a lot of different items. It is a great option for your larger presses. If you look, this stabilizer board is 2 feet by 8 feet, and it is an 1/8 of an inch thick, so it works very, very well with the clamshell, where the majority of the pressure is toward the back of the press. So we do want to make sure we protect all of our investments. So our heat press as well as the board. So what we're going to do is go ahead and pre-press. Now this particular design has flames that come across the bottom of the apron. So I'm going to put that on there. What I have found when I'm using my stabilizer board is that generally this is a very, very thin seam. One of the thinnest seams that I have seen in sublimation garments, and I really like that because it makes it a little bit easier to press. However, with the sublimation or with the stabilizer board, I have found that even a little bit of offset, as far as like this seam here, is going to make it, if you look up the camera, that's going to make it a little bit higher here than it is down here, and you will get marbling. So what I'm going to be using to offset that is just a little towel that I got at the dollar store. It's just their vinyl, it's just their polyester microfiber towels, but they work really well for this type of thing. I don't need a full-fledged pressing pillow. I just need a little bit of help to even out the bottom of that seam so that it makes it even. And when I press it, it's going to allow me to press all the way across very nicely without having marbling on that. So I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to check my pressure, but then I'm also going to pre-press this where it is a garment, a fabric. I always like to pre-press to get any moisture out, but also to iron the garment, flatten it out so it's easier for me to press. So as you can see, this measures about 26 inches. My press is 16 by 24, so it is larger than my press, hence using the pressing, the stabilizer board, so that I can just shift this. I'll do one press, then I'll shift it over and do the other press. The stabilizer board allows it to prevent moving of the substrate as well as the design, and prevents that lovely ghosting that sometimes can happen when we disrupt our design. So where I couldn't get it under both sides, I am going to go ahead and do this other side. I pre-press for about 10 to 15 seconds is all. I press at my regular temperature, which is 385 degrees. And I'm going to be using medium to firm pressure on these. So now the bottom portion of my apron is going to be, is all pre-pressed, ready for my design. So these flames that I'm putting on, I want to kind of hang off the design. I want them to look like they are coming up out of the apron. So I'm going to just put that like this. We slide this over a little bit and we'll start with our first side. Now, if I were, it would not be a big deal because my little towel would prevent it, but I would have to be careful if I was coming up onto the pocket, then I would just need to make sure I had a pressing pillow or something over here to help even out that pressure. So I talk about this a lot in every tutorial. You do want to know your equipment. For me now, I know that my equipment runs a little bit hot. So generally I would do 400 degrees, but my equipment runs about 10 to 15 degrees higher. So hence putting it to 385. Really important to have a heat gun that you can check this out, make sure that you are that your element is heating thoroughly and evenly all the way through. So I'm going to go about 50 seconds and then I'm going to go ahead and move it over so that I can get the other part of my apron. And then I'm just going to take a peek and make sure we got some good coverage, which we did. So I love those little towels. They're cheap, which I love about them, but they also provide just a little bit. You don't want a lot of a thick pillow, or you have the pressing pads, and those are going to be too thick for this. But that just provides enough cushion that it allows us to get an even press without that marbling that sometimes you see when you're not, when you're pressing an item that is, that has a lot of seams or whatnot. If I were doing this whole apron, what I might do is lay out several towels so that anywhere that has seams that are going to make that are going to be higher than what the surrounding areas are, and I'll show you what I mean here in just a second, that they're padded so that we're not going to have a problem with that marbling. There's nothing worse than when you, so I'm just going to hurry and peek at this real quick and make sure that I like the, it's beautiful. So you can see my flames all the way up. That is exactly what I wanted them to do. Now we'll go ahead and take it off of here. And then as you can see, when we do a full bleed, you're going to get some off-gassing, and so there you can see we protected our board by having that there. But what I wanted to show you is right here. So it's hard to see. You can see how pretty that sublimated, but I want to show you the other side. So if you look right here, as I bring this along, right there in the corner, you can see that this is a little bit higher than this. And that is what we're trying to prevent with that little towel. Because otherwise, what I've had happen, and I've had it happen many times, I've done these a lot over the years, what you will see is marbling effect. So we're going to try to avoid that by doing that little towel there. So I'm going to go ahead and discard my blowout paper and get some fresh. And now we're going to do our main design on the front. Now these are not quite as, you'll see they're not quite as frilly as the girls are, for lack of a better word. So let me show you. So I am going to put my towel again, and the reason being is because I've got this neck piece that's going to make this middle part stand up higher, or be lower than this part. And you would get, if you were going up here, you might see some marbling all the way around. So that towel is going to prevent that. So I'm going to just very carefully, very leery of this because I've been burned so many times in the last couple weeks. And then we want to pre-press this as well. But I really, really want to get this out of the way. So we're just going to pre-press again to make sure that we've got a nice flat surface, but also get rid of any moisture that's in the fabric. Just about 10 to 15 seconds takes care of that. And now you can see I've got a nice, even, flat surface to work with. So I am going to just go ahead and line up my design. I'm going to line it up to so that it's, so if you see, this little grill part is even letters. So I can line that up because my pocket's straight. I can also line up my wording above my pocket so I can make sure that my design is straight. All right. Now we'll just go ahead and cover it. This time we'll go the 50 seconds and it should be ready to pull off of there. And I do love how these sublimate. So I found these aprons on Amazon. I will include the link in the comments, but really good quality. They sub beautifully. Once you work out, so I always do some prep. When you guys see these videos, usually I've done at least 2 or 3. So short of making sure you've got those, got some sort of support underneath these, then they press just beautifully. And you would run into that with any of your garments because of seams. Seams create an uneven surface. And so that little towel is really, really beneficial. It's super cheap. So it's a good way to do it. You can reuse them as long as you protect them. You can reuse them with multiple items. So they're a good thing to have around. All right, let's go ahead and pull this one off. I do love how they press. So I'm just going to discard my paper and then I will show you guys the finished product. And we'll put it on, and so you can see they the straps get quite big, so they will cover a fairly large, they have a fairly large span, and they cover well. They're not ones that drop clear down, so I like that about them. And you can see they are just a fun Father's Day. I do have matching designs that go on tumblers. I have mug designs. I also have dish towel designs that you can use with this theme. So I have multiple grill ones. This is for all of you. Most of our men like to, or even us women, we like to grill, and we can definitely be king of the grills or queens of the grills. So there you go. So that's the one that tend to do really, really well for Father's Day. And then let's go ahead and move on to the one for the women. These tend to be a little bit, I do tend to do some more color coordinating. I will show you what I mean by that here in just a second. So same thing, we are going to create a little safe space for our so that we don't get that marbling that we talked about. So I'm going to put another piece of paper down because it's going to be just a little bit longer. My blowout paper is 24 inches wide. And as I told you before, these are 24 inches or 26 inches wide, these aprons. And just make sure you've got your towel there to help protect, help lift that up a little bit so you're not going to have problems with the seams. Now this design, I will show you. I do not necessarily want, I don't want it to come all the way down to the bottom of my apron. So I'm a little bit less worried about making sure that the bottom of this gets done more than I am right here. I've got about a 6-inch border that I'm going to put on there. And so I'm not as worried about getting all the way down to the bottom like I was with the fire design. So we'll let this go for 15 seconds. Again, we are getting rid of all of the moisture, but also pressing to make sure we've got a nice flat surface to work with. So on this one, I'm going to be using my hen design or my rooster design. So I just want to adjust. So you can see this is the border I'll be using. And so I don't need it to be quite as ironed out all the way to the bottom like I did for the fire design. But I do need to adjust this so that this is even, so that I get some good coverage and make sure I avoid that marbling that we talked about. So I want to bring this, and as you can see, this, and you're going to get this with most of your sewn items, this side is a lot longer than this side. So you just have to be a little bit cautious. So again, I am going to line that up with my pocket because I'm assured that the pocket is straight. And then what I want to do is make sure that my center hen is lined up in the center. So I'm going to center that in my pocket. Slide this over just a little bit and go ahead and reapply my blowout paper so that I'm protecting my platen from any ink off-gassing. If you haven't experienced it yet, I dare say that you probably will, that you forget to put your blowout paper down. You get some off-gassing, which you may not even see from another project. And then what ends up happening is you go to do another project and you'll all of a sudden have ink somewhere where you did not mean it to be. So make sure you're protecting your platen and your substrate both. There's nothing worse than getting everything prepped and then finding out you have ink from another project that's continuing to off gas as it gets heated up. So we've got about 20 seconds left on this. This one we're going to do a little bit differently. We are going to do the pocket, a separate design for the pocket. So I'll walk you through how to do that. It just adds some variety. You could do this with your men apron, your women apron. It just helps add some variety and kind of set you apart. All right, so I'm going to just slide this over to get the other part of my apron. I'm just going to make sure I don't have any marbling. That looks fantastic. So our towel did its job. And I will be doing a video shortly where I do an all-over apron coverage. But I just didn't have the time to do that today. Aprons are fun. They're a lot of fun, and I encourage you to give them a try because, you know, no matter where we live, they do tend to come in handy. So I don't know of any of my vendors currently that have aprons. I know some of them have children aprons, but I specifically did want adult aprons. I will be doing some like mommy and me, daddy and me type aprons. But I did want a good option for adult aprons, and I have been very, very pleased with these aprons. So you can see it pressed really, really well. Really, really well. I'm very happy with that. So I'm going to discard again of my, so you can see how well that pressed on there. And then I'm going to discard my blowout paper from the bottom because I do have some off-gassing that took place with that. And we'll go ahead and get ready for the pocket as well as the top portion. So with this one, again, we're going to want to use our towel. And this time I'm going to put it like this, longwise, because I'm doing the top of my apron. And then we will do our pocket very last. So I'm going to just go ahead and hang the neck portion off the top so it stays out of my way. I am going to bring the towel down just a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and pre-press the top since we have not done that yet. And iron out any creases that I have, anything that might make pressing hard. Then about 15 seconds is all it takes to do that. And I actually have two pieces that I'm going to use on this top part. So I'm going to use this little saying. I'm going to put it right above my pocket, just centered there. I made this a little bit smaller than I did the one for the fire apron, and I did that on purpose because I'm putting also a little border here on the top. So I'm going to press those simultaneously. And I'm doing the very thing that I told you guys not to do. So let me just hurry and throw a piece of blowout paper over my over this so that I don't ruin my towel. I'll be honest with you, sometimes I'm really good at this, sometimes I'm terrible, and I just chuck the towel and get a new one. I guess it just depends what kind of a mood I'm in. But it probably would be good money management to not just throw it away. So I'm going to just line this up real quickly again. So these are really fun. They're quick to do once you get in, like everything else. Once you get into a process, you get into get comfortable doing them. They're really fast to do. Generally, in my area, I would charge $40 to $45 for these. They'd be really fun to pair as a set with a tumbler or a set of grill utensils would be fun with them, or baking utensils. So just some ideas to throw out there to up your game. And remember, we are always talking about things that we have to do to set ourselves apart from others. I don't know about you guys, but it seems like every time I turn around, there's someone else in my area that's doing sublimation. And so it's about constantly offering different products so they have their products and you still have yours to use. All right. So this is what I was afraid of. So I'm going to just line this back up. I'll show you how I do this. So occasionally this happens. I did not get my towel up high enough. And so what happened here is I didn't have the protection. And if you guys can see, I did not get a good press on it, a good solid press. So if you guys see, it's really dark here. It's not so dark here. I've had this happen before. It's easy enough. What I'm going to do is I'm going to line up. And that is why some of these little, some paper is a little bit easier to do than others with this. So it looks like it's lined up well. And we're just going to repress it. In all honesty, most people probably wouldn't notice that, but for me it bothers me. The other thing you could do is sometimes it's helpful, you can use spray, you can use adhesive spray. That wouldn't have helped with the problem of it not transferring because that was strictly a pressure problem. But to keep I neglected to mention you can use sprays, removable adhesive sprays. So for instance, Elmer's has a good one, Easy Tack is a good one. Basically, you're just looking for sprays that you can move after you put them on. And the biggest problem I see with sprays is people just kind of go nuts with them. So you can see you would never even know. I'll show that, hold that up in just a minute. You would never know I double pressed that. So you can see the center there. There's my turkey. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on this pocket right here. I wanted it to be a different color. I wanted to do something different with it. So I'm actually, because it's not going to hurt that at all to have that there. Now, anytime I'm tucking, or let's say this should be fine. But let's say I have to tuck this. The biggest thing to watch for with that is that you don't get puckering, because what it's going to do is if that folds on itself, you're going to end up with a color where you don't want it to be. So just make sure you're being very conscious of that. And then, sorry you guys, I misplaced my heat tape. So what I'm going to do with this is I am going to tape around this entire pocket, because I do not want any ink getting outside of the pocket. So let me grab some scissors. So I'm just using some heat tape. Easy to do this. And I'm going to actually bring it out just a little bit. So if you guys saw my hoodie, my sublimation hoodie where I did the pocket and the sleeves, this is the same idea as using the blowout paper. Sometimes when you have heavy ink, like you're doing a blue, or then the only thing I found with the blowout paper is that sometimes it will bleed through. So that is my hesitation there. So I would always line this with the tape, and then if you need to move out a little bit with the blowout paper, you know, that's certainly something you could do. Meaning if you wanted to do your tape here and then do blowout paper just to be sure, that is definitely something you can do. I would probably just cut down my design, but whatever you guys want to do will work. And then I'm also going to put one here. Anywhere I have the potential to get ink where I don't want it to, I'm going to protect. I've gotten spoiled with my automatic tape dispenser, so I hate when I have to actually cut it, because my little dispenser does it all for me. And then I'm going to bring ones up here as well. I do this on my pillows, like if I'm doing, right now the graduation pillows are huge. The panel picture pillows are big right now, and so in between the panels I will make sure that I tape. Otherwise you can end up with transferring of ink. You know, it's generally those pillows are black on the parts that are not being subbed, but it still just looks tacky. So I always make sure that I am using my tape to make sure that it's not transferring to areas that I don't want it to be. So this will be our last press, and then we'll be done for the day, and you'll have an idea to do some fun aprons. Please check out the designs. I will be adding more and more apron designs to my Shopify, as well as my Etsy. The benefit of the Shopify that I tell my customers is that I am able to do larger bundles there, where I'm limited with my bundling options with Etsy. So I'm just going to make sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off my corners just a little bit. So if you see, I'm just going to take a tiny bit off here so that I make sure that nothing's getting transferred where I don't want it to do. So I'm going to do just a little bit more on this side, and then I think we'll be good to go. And then we'll just go ahead and, now this one I am going to put them on all of it so that I'm not transferring ink from the border to my platen to transfer to another project. So I'm going to cover the whole thing, and then we'll let it go for 60 seconds. And this will be a really fun option for you for Father's Day or Mother's Day or throughout the year. These would be really fun for Christmas baking, Thanksgiving, or just year round, just every day. I've never been huge, of course, those of you that know me know that I hate to cook. I'm terrible at it, but I've never been a huge apron wearer, but my mom wears one everywhere. This is who this apron is going to, because she loves aprons. So there's a big market for those, and you can do some really fun things, bundle them together with some really fun things. Got about 10 more seconds. Please, I used to do live tutorials on the spot, and my work schedule and whatnot has made that a little bit more difficult. So please, if I'm not watching with you, I am monitoring all of my social media sites, and I am so happy to answer questions and PM me, and I am happy to help. So please know that that's an option. And if you feel stuck after watching a tutorial, then I would encourage you to just reach out. I'm happy to help and figure out what's going on. All right, and then I have nurse's nails, which means no nails. So you can see how much fun that adds. By adding that pocket, it just adds kind of a burst of color. We'll go ahead and put this on so you can see what it looks like on. They are big. They cover large, and so that's what I like. You're getting really good coverage to protect you. I will share the link for these aprons in the comments. And again, if you have any questions, concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out. And please make sure to comment that you're watching this. And I really, really appreciate your support. Have a great night.